At 114 for four, it was the kind of run chase that could easily have become a little tricky. On paper, there were just bowling all rounders and bowlers to follow until it was all up to Suryakumar Yadav and Venkatesh Iyer, the local boy who's actually not shown too much of his wares at the Eden Gardens, who actually showed the way with a partnership that took them home after some of the stalwarts following their opening partnership didn't quite do the job. Rohit Sharma, 40 of 19, was still the top score. What an innings. What a start. An explosive start to the innings. But the 34 of 18 for Suryakumar Yadav is what took India home safe with an over and one delivery to spare. It was Roston Chase who brought the West Indies back into a game that they never looked like even having a foothold in. When Rohit Sharma was going, he came in with a 4-over spell, an outstanding 4-over spell where he gave away just 14 runs. At the end, it didn't matter. They just flattered to deceive. India runaway winners. Fourth limited overs match on the trot on this West Indies tour of India. Welcome to Cricbuzz Live as we look back at the first game. And of course, as we always do, we'll look ahead to game number 2 to follow. I'm in the company of Ajay Jadeja and Dinesh Karthik. TK, you maintained from the start. I think we all agreed it was under par. Briefly, West Indies got back into the middle of the game, but that partnership just took any small doubt away.
Yeah, I think they batted really well. Showed some maturity, and also it's good to see India being tested in the middle, and there's obviously it's good signs. Obviously, when you lose a few wickets in the middle, it always causes a few jitters, and that's what happened. But finished off in a calm and composed manner.
Yeah, maybe there was obviously slight bit of dew out there, but 48 of 26 is what really mattered, because if you look in the middle with the fall of Virat Kohli, Ishan Kishan hadn't exactly set the place on fire, and Rishabh Pant with his trademark one-handed shot was not the perfect time for India to have lost a wicket. But then with Venkatesh Iyer walking out there, Jay, to join Suryakumar Yadav, they just kept their heads. And it's not that they played slowly. They got the boundaries when needed and completely sealed the deal.
Yeah, they made it look easy, didn't they? I mean, it was a tricky situation, not I wouldn't say a very tough one or anything like that. But, suddenly when you've lost wickets, you're walking in, especially for Venkatesh Iyer, who's, a young man, to come in at that stage. I think for both, fortunately, the starts were brilliant. And, DK would probably have his view on it. But I think when you bat at this number 5 and 6 and 7, what really matters is the first 3, 4, 5 balls. Because the game is set. When you walk in there, either you are in a commanding position or you are behind the game. And the first 3, 4 balls, so 3, 4 balls for each guys means over and a half. And in this game, that could be the change. So luckily for them, they got boundary balls. I mean, Surya had 2 boundaries to start with. First one was fabulous, timing. And then Venkatesh, when he walked in, he got a nice one on his legs as well. But once they got that start, they made it look easy. I mean, I like the composure that both of them have. They both look very confident. They're not looking rushed. And, at the end, they still had, 7 balls to spare.
DK, Venkatesh Iyer very well, at least in terms of the role he played at KKR, but it was a very different role that he had to play here. And he's kind of shown that he can tick a box if required. That calmness and composure was there.
Yes, I think we have to remember that he's played in the middle order for Madhya Pradesh. Even in the recently concluded Vijay Hazare Trophy, he batted in the middle order and did a fabulous job. So he's not alien to batting in the middle, and he grabbed his opportunity for KKR at the top of the order. I think he's far more comfortable there. But given a chance rather in the middle of the order, he's done well in the limited opportunities he's got.
But I'll stay with you, DK, on Suryakumar Yadav. He said at the end, the first thing he told Venki Iyer out there was, no fancy shots. Let's not do anything silly. Let's just take it home. West Indies spinners have bowled really well, and the ball was stopping a little bit.
Yes, when you have finger spinners and they bowl hard into the wicket, and if there's sometimes a little bit of grip, then it becomes hard to play. But as the game goes deeper, it becomes much easier, especially if the dew settles in. And good thinking from Suryakumar.
Yeah, it just shows his maturity, Ajay. For all the criticism we had of Roston Chase in the role as a batsman, we know that he can provide you 4 overs of off spin, and I think it was well utilized by Karan Pollard, and hence more credit to Suryakumar for countering that.
Absolutely, no complaints on his bowling. I mean, in fact, he's, off spinners seem to be not part of this game, but he started off well. I mean, these are Suryakumar's numbers, and they're fabulous. I mean, this is somebody walking in at at this strike rate, and when wickets have fallen, and you've come in and you're the last pair there, and still to have that, numbers are pretty good. With Roston Chase, I'm pretty impressed with his bowling. I mean, we've seen him bowl in the past as well. I mean, Rohit Sharma, first over, I can remember the last ball. I mean, first he couldn't get the strike. Ishan Kishan struggling a little. And then he bowls that ball that just keeps straight. Surprised Rohit Sharma as well with that, the form that Rohit Sharma was in. And then he just carried on and didn't give anything, no room, no length. He bowled brilliantly. I mean, I have no problems with him playing as a spinner. They have enough batting. He could come back and hold the innings if they're 5 down someday. Surely, I mean, he's capable of doing that. But with the stage that they were in when he walked in today, that had surprised me for sure.
Kudos to Roston Chase, the bowler. But TK, again, to finish off on Suryakumar Yadav, he said, and he's always maintained this, I think, I'm flexible to bat at any position. I badly wanted to finish the game, and I'm really happy to finish the game and stay not out, which is more a reflection on wanting to finish the game, not that he wants to boost his batting average.
Yeah, definitely. I think as a middle order batsman, you should be willing to take it deep and make sure you're there at the end. And that's exactly what he's done. In the limited time that he's played, again, he's shown the potential to always play shots, but also the mental side of things and taking the game and making sure he closes it is a great attribute as well.
And I mean, at the very start on our show, we were talking about looking ahead to the end of the year, the T20 World Cup, Ajay. And his would be one of those slots that are not nicely sealed. I mean, a Rohit Sharma, a Virat Kohli, a Jasprit Bumrah down the order with the ball. Several of those slots are taken, sealed, nailed down. But one of those slots in the middle, up for grabs.
That's the case. I mean, Gautam, because mostly the sealed spots are 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is invariably you get to bat, you have enough opportunity. If you have a good day, then you get an 80 or 100. So the numbers are also big. It's 5, 6, and 7, and not from today, from ever and ever. I mean, because if you have a good day, like say Venkatesh Iyer, I think he's had a good day today. What has he got? 20 not out. If he has a bad day, he'll get a 0. So it looks, people looking at numbers all the time always feel that 5, 6, 7 will never be able to match 1, 2, 3. So but I think it should be pretty sealed. Who else do you think? Everybody around at the moment, and ever since he's walked into this Indian side, he's looked confident, and it's something that you need at that number. I think you need skills, of course, but as you get experienced with the game, it somehow becomes easier, that spot. It's for the young guys when they come in, it's different, and especially for people who played right at the top, when the circle is there, every shot gives you full mileage. Only testing time, Gautam, and I'm a firm believer that guys who bat at 5, 6, and 7 are never troubled when it's got dew or when it's hard and bouncy. The testing times for 5, 6, 7 generally comes when it's dry, when it's stopping a bit, or the ball's got really old, and you walk in and that ball's not coming onto the bat. So I don't think today is the reason why you could say that Suryakumar Yadav sealed his position. I think there will be many tests before you get to the World Cup, but at the moment, I mean, he's looked good, and he just gives you that. I remember him from the IPL, one of those games where he says, "Don't worry." I mean, he didn't say it, but it's just that body language, and he's just carrying on. He just seems confident. He walks in there, and there's no single or there's no thought of getting out. He just carries on, and when he gets out in those 2 one-dayers in I think the last series, or even in this one, it looks bad. It looks too early. There was no need. But that's his style. I mean, that's the way he plays. And you got to accept him the way he is.
Yeah, if I remember right, that was probably against Bangalore, where he maybe had a little tete-a-tete with Virat Kohli and just sort of let the world know that he's there and you can rely on him. And certainly, DK, he's shown that he can be relied on, Surya. One person who'd be very intrigued sitting on the sidelines and watching is the newly appointed captain of KKR, Mr. Shreyas Iyer, because he might just be another contender for that, one of those middle order gaps.
Yeah, that's always the case in India. When you have abundance of talent and a lot of players, everybody's not going to get the opportunity. But you can see Rohit clearly coming out and saying that it's experimentation is a highly overrated word, and he's focusing on trying to win every game. And it's good to see Surya, delivering.
Yep, certainly did deliver, finished it off in the company of Venkatesh Iyer. But if you had to look back at the West Indies, maybe they will turn around and say they just didn't have a weapon to turn to at a stage when Roston Chase did a job in the middle, 4 overs, 2 for 14. And that's the stage, Ajay. I think Karan Poddar would like to have turned to somebody fielding at third man or fine leg and say, come on, I need another 2 good overs out of you. I don't think he
Yeah,
quite had that weapon.
no, I'm with you on that, and maybe there's a thought that they have to change with batting at all the way till 10, which doesn't get used very often, and bowlers get used every time. Every time you have a game, even if a bowler has a good day, he can only bowl 4 overs. So if you're looking for that weapon, they have space in that side to add in just somebody who's a pure bowler or somebody who doesn't bat that well, and then maybe you can look at that fine leg, and that man would be standing there. At the moment, all those guys were in that dugout, of no use to Karen Pollard, because bowling, Cottrell did bowl well to start with, but there was nothing. And in fact, on a pitch like this, there was a little bit help for the seamers. So maybe if the wicket's similar next time, we might see another extra seamer playing for West Indies, just a pure bowler, somebody who probably doesn't bat. Because if you need a number 11 to bat, then it's already too late.
Yeah, in India, if you had to draw a comparison, DK, for India, and if you had an Indian off spinner who had just restricted 4 overs for 14, the opposition running away with the game, you could have turned to a Jasprit Bumrah with 2 more overs right then and say, mate, get me a wicket. And he would.
True, true. I think that's very true. If you have a skilled bowler like Jasprit Bumrah, you're talking about the best in the business in the world. So yeah, that would really help. And I think that's one thing that West Indies probably miss a bit of Narayan, because if he had been there, then the story would have been very different.
Yeah, he's the kind of player. There are a few match winners who play T20 cricket in the leagues around the world, who are, of course, still playing leagues around the world and not part of this setup. Two individuals to single out before we wrap up for Team India on day one. Rohit Sharma with bat in hand. I mean, it's really not much one can say other than the fact that he found a familiar place and he treated the Eden like he always does.
Yeah,
Ajay?
we've been speaking about Ajay bhai, please.
Yeah,
No,
go ahead, go ahead.
go ahead, DK.
No, we've been speaking about the fact that Rohit loves Eden, and there's no doubt, his highest scores in T20, in one-day cricket, almost everywhere. He got a 100 on debut in Test cricket as well. It's been a happy hunting ground for him, and it remains so. And you could see he's very comfortable with the kind of pace and bounce that wicket produces, and they seem to be bowling short a bit, which is right up his alley as well. So, he's getting those pulls and hooks into action, and you can see if somebody has an opener can bat at a strike rate of 200, you're always in commanding position in a game.
Yeah, and he just looked as if he wanted to. I mean, we could have been done with this show about 4 overs or 5 overs earlier, the way Rohit was going, if he had stayed till then. But he just laid the foundation, and it almost seemed that nothing could go wrong.
Yeah, where the way he started. I mean, as it is, all of us, at least here, we believe that they were a few runs short to start with. Then you get a start like that where it's not required. I mean, not it takes the pressure off your opening partner as well, Ishan Kishan, who did struggle a little. You didn't feel it that way because Rohit Sharma was going at a pace that only Rohit Sharma can go with no risk taken as well. I mean, a lot of people go at 200 strike rate at times, but you see risk being taken, or trying to muscle their way out of that situation. Whereas with Rohit, you don't feel that. I mean, you just feel that he's comfortable. He's timing it. The very first flick that he had a couple of balls before that which were really pitched up, and he opened up all the way. But then once that flick came, it was just pure timing. And I think even when he got out, it was almost like, my partner's not getting past you. Otherwise, sensibly, if the total was different, he would have just probably got to the other end. It was almost like there was an ego to get after Roston Chase.
Yeah, it was that sound of the bat of that flick that Ajay just mentioned was absolutely sensational. Just to finish on that partnership between Rohit Sharma and Ishan Kishan, DK, Any cause for worry, at least internally, for Ishan Kishan? Because, of course, he is an explosive player, but obviously he was seeing what Rohit was doing at the other end. And, we saw a few numbers being bandied around. Over 40 balls faced, one of the lowest strike rates we've seen in an innings for India.
We got to understand Ishan Kishan's mindset as well. He knows he's replacing KL Rahul, and when he's back, he'll take his opportunity. So every game is a massive opportunity for Ishan Kishan. I think he batted really well up until the power play, in many ways complementing Rohit. And after that, Roston Chase bowled well, and it happens. And it wasn't like we were chasing 200, 220. He knew we were in control of the chase. So it's completely acceptable. And people who've played international cricket will realize that. There are games that sometimes you take your time, and those are important games because that gives you the confidence to propel yourself in the next games that come along in a bilateral series. And we will definitely see Ishan obviously playing at a far higher strike rate as well.
And that's why you look at numbers in context. If we just look at it a couple of years down the line, you'd probably look at that and say, nah, had an off day, write him off. So hence looking behind the numbers, which is exactly what we tried to do. But there was no need to look behind or in front of anyone when it came to our debutant. And certainly one of the talking points of the day. Roston Chase was outstanding with his off spin, but with his wrist spin, Ravi Bishnoi, 4 overs, 2 for 17, 17 dot deliveries. And that, Ajay, despite a bit of a nervous start, he admitted at the mid-innings interview that he was a little bit nervous, and he would be, because all those wides in that first over, and then everything fell in place.
Yeah, very honest in that interview where he came and said, a little nerves, which is natural, and you can't blame that. But I'd say, what you just said about the numbers with Ishan Kishan, sometimes numbers don't tell you the story. These numbers are also as, deceiving, I would say. He had a good day. I mean, for a debutant, a fabulous day. I mean, just to go through, a day where you've picked up 2 wickets, you've been the most economical bowler. But, when I look at those numbers, I think they are flattering more than what he actually ended up bowling. And as I see him more and more, he's, there are a lot of bowlers you'd see who will grow. You see their skills, so they have variation of different kinds, and then, they would be able to do it. Whereas with him, what we've seen even in the IPL and here, what we're seeing is, it's like we do call him leg spinner. I heard Sir also talk about him and said he's a wrist spinner. And honestly, I didn't see a ball go this way. So, and it doesn't matter whether the ball goes this way or that way. At the end of the day, if you can bamboozle the batsman, you get the batsman to play a different line from what he is expecting. That's what you need to do. So the young man had a good day, and I wish him all the luck. And he has, many, many more good days. But I would look at him not as a leg spinner. I would look at him as, what we looked at mystery bowlers. It's almost a mystery because he's called leg spinner, but it goes the other way.
Yeah, that's exactly what the assessment was, DK. What's your assessment from 22 yards away when you faced him?
The one thing that stands out for a start is the fact that he bowls at a far faster speed than most leg spinners do, and he relies because his arm is very close to his ear, which in turn doesn't get the leg spin to turn a lot, but his googly will be a lot more efficient. Unlike Chahal, who has slightly wider release point, so he's able to turn the ball both ways. Whereas for Bishnoi, it's far closer to his ear, so he'll always have a much stronger ball coming into the batter, and his leg spin also will tend to be just a straighten, the one that's straightened, unless there is help in the wicket, then it'll turn. So we will be seeing Bishnoi, but bowling a lot more googlies and the one that comes in. So what does that does is the fact that as a batter, you're always trying to make sure you don't get LBW or bowled too often, because that's what he's looking to do as a bowler. So you got to be aware of that, and the speed at which he bowls, you got to make sure that you get your bat in front of your pad and you're constantly looking to hit down the ground.
So yes, we've got observations, assessments on the debutant Ravi Bishnoi, outstanding figures, and certainly would be one of the contenders for player of the match, but we'll come to that in a moment. Let's just finish off with Rohit Sharma's thoughts on the game. Should have finished that off, is what India's captain said. We wanted to be a bit clinical in the end. We were trying to do stuff in the middle, didn't work out, but happy with the win. We can take a lot of confidence. Restricting a great unit like that to 157 was a great effort by the bowlers. With the bat, we were not clinical, but again, we will take the learnings out of this game. And that is what Rohit Sharma has assessed. For the end of game 1, but it's not over. It might be 4-0 in a sense to the West Indies to India, but the West Indies will want to come back. Same venue, couple of days time. We'll look ahead to game number 2. That's what's coming. The second T20 International. No change in the venue. Eden Gardens in Kolkata. It will be Ajay. If the West Indies have to take learnings in, I know Rohit Sharma said he'll also take learnings, but from the West Indies point of view, what's the biggest learning they want to take to change things in game number 2? How to play spin in the middle overs?
Yes, couple of things. I mean, that's one of them. And I think just looking at the first game, one thing is that they need to beef up their bowling a little bit. They want a pure bowler, somebody who can, you know, there's a different mindset. There's an all-rounders mindset, but you need a pure bowler because you will need wickets. The reason why you don't win even 20-20 over games in this stage, at least in the last game when you saw, is if they had somebody to pick up a couple of wickets at that stage, when they were 4 down, things could have changed. So that is one learning. And when you learn, if you take that learning and add another bowler, automatically the batting that you have extra that you're not utilizing will be shortened, and they would probably be more responsible. And Ruston Chase could be used. He was great with his bowling, but with his batting, he could be used if you're really in trouble. Not when you're still in a commanding position with 6 guys who can come in there and destroy the opposition bowling attack. So I think these two are the key for me. Otherwise, overnight, it's very difficult to change anything else.
All right, DK. So based on that and what we feel here, if we have a look at the West Indies squad, one is, of course, you could take Roston Chase and maybe push him down the order. Anyone else you'd like to see from there? Perhaps a bit of wrist spin from Hayden Walsh, maybe an out-and-out bowler like an Alzari Joseph coming in?
We have to understand, I think Jason Holder will be back. From what I hear, he should be back. So that will beef up their bowling straight away. And then if you can bring in a Hayden Walsh at the cost of one of the left-arm spinners, that gives you an option of a wrist spinner as well. It's important that in Calcutta you trust a bit of spin as well. Sometimes it is a wicket which aids a lot of spin. So these are 2 areas that they would be looking at.
Yeah, fair enough. They've got options of 2 players to replace. One is, of course, Akil Hussain, who they tried up the order with the bat, and Fabian Allen, who's dynamic in the field. So, in fact, is Akil Hussain. So that's why it's so tempting to always keep them in because of their fielding skills. But hey, Hayden Walsh too is a gun fielder. So no problems on that count for the West Indies. Rohit Sharma did mention plenty about Team India and just looking to get game time for certain players. Shardul Thakur was one who missed out today. TK, I'll come to you first on Team India there. Plenty of options in the squad if you have a look at that. Any reason to try and push somebody in other than giving them an opportunity?
From what Rohit Sharma said, he said that he wants to win every game. So I think he'll stick to the same 11. Maybe if they win both games, then you'll see a lot of changes like we saw in the ODIs as well. So that's what I expect.
Ajay, you'd concur with that? Again, based on what Rohit said and based on what we feel from the outside?
Yeah, and it's only been 1 game. I mean, even if somebody's had a bad game, and I don't think that anybody's had such a bad game that you need to change. Plus, you have the solid guys right at the top. They are there all the time. 5 and 6 have come back not out. 4 is a guy that is your wicket keeper, and he's going to play the way he plays. So I don't see there any change. With bowling, I think they've only had 1 game each. So if you'd not done well, something had gone wrong, I think the conditions demand another seamer in the side. The game that I saw today, I think the seamers had a lot more purchase than what we saw with especially with the West Indian side. So I think if you were tactically going to add something, I would add another seamer into that side. It's tough to leave a young man who's had a great game to start, given away 17 runs, only picked up a couple of wickets, but I think there's more help for the seamers there.
Yeah, well, that could be a possible temptation to get in there, but it's going to be really hard to extract that. Just a little bit of trivia to throw in. At least I personally would remember this one. We talk about debuts and having such an impact on debut. To confirm, Ravi Bishnoi, player of the match on debut. Now, I'm trying to think way back in 2006. India played their first T20 international. It was at the Wanderers in Johannesburg. And whoever got the man of the match there would have got man of the match on T20I debut. Any thoughts, DK, who that might have been?
It's a good question. But yeah, it's a good feeling to receive a man of the match in the first game you ever play. So I'm really happy for Ravi Bishnoi. I know what that feeling is. So, good on him.
But how things have changed. I mean, that time we had no idea what this format was. I mean, it was a fag end of the series. We were playing off the ODIs and test matches. And then suddenly they said, we're playing a T20 game. And the players won't sit in the dressing room. They'll sit in the dugout. And nobody knew what was happening except Dinesh Karthik.
It was a lovely game. It was a great game because I remember South Africa played a full strength side, whereas India, Sachin, Dravid, all of them just sat out that game. But we ended up winning a pretty close game, even though the chase wasn't big. But it was completely alien to a lot of the players. And what happened after that in the World Cup T20, everybody remembers. So it was the start of a great story for India and for Indian cricket and for world cricket. Actually, in many ways, this format has actually come in. Swept everybody off its feet. So it's probably been the strongest format to come in many years.
I tried hard, Ajay, to embarrass DK and see what sort of reaction I'd get to naming. Oh yeah, Dinesh Karthik it was who got that, but he did well. He played it with a straight bat.
Yeah, I mean, why should he be embarrassed? He should be proud of what he's done, and first game it's a tough one, and then to win a man of the match, there can't be anything better. And especially when you have Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid all being left out. I mean, we say left out, whatever happened. And from there on, it's been a tough journey for DK, I can tell you that. I mean, the man's batted at numbers, which is a tough position to match with numbers, the guys who batted 1, 2, 3. So he's had a tough journey. But why not? If you had a good moment, you got to, don't be embarrassed about it. Be proud about it.
Oh, yeah, I meant embarrassed in a good way. I was just trying to put him on the spot on the show. But yes, for the record, folks, the first time it happened was Dinesh Karthik, Johannesburg 2006. And the next time it's happened is a man of the match on T20I debut, Eden Gardens, Kolkata 2022, Ravi Bishnoi. So there's a nice little list to start building up for Team India. It's the year of the T20 World Cup. And we hope for many such new faces to come in and add to the ever-growing headache of Team India's selectors for the end of the year. Well, we've had one game out of 3. India 1-0 up in the T20I series. We'll look to wrap it up on Friday in Kolkata, but we need to wrap up our joy factor question for the day. Let's first remind you of the question, and then we can give you the answer. There had to be some kind of relevance, as we always get with joy. A Caribbean connect between one of the best catches of the 2003 World Cup and the 2022 Gujarat Titans squad. Don't give the answer away yet, because Ajay Jadeja had his hand up. Didn't you have your hand up?
No, I did have, but I got it wrong.
Oh, what was your what were you guessing?
I thought it was IPL that year they were talking about. When 2003 there wasn't an IPL. Somehow I don't know why I thought Gurkirat Maan. I came to my mind that catch debut, taking that catch. I got it totally wrong. I'm glad that you did ask me to give the answer then. You would have been more
because you were smiling and you had your hand up like the child who comes first in class sitting in the first row. Sir, me, sir. Sir, me, sir.
So it's like, you have bad days. Today's been one of those days. It's like what happened to Ishan Kishan, and it happens. Best of the days, you try and do many things and you feel that you're in control, but you aren't. That's been a day. That's been that kind of a day for me.
So let's go and find out what the answer is, because I was struggling to try and make that connection. Caribbean connection, 2003, Vasper, there had to be that. We were talking about them before the show started, and I should have somehow picked that up. Yeah, good old Vasper Drakes took a fabulous catch in that tournament. And of course, his son, Dommy, has been picked up by the Gujarat Titans and also took the Patriots to victory in the CPL this year. So Dominic Drake's quite a good future. And in fact, DK, I think we were chatting that he's one person who could possibly sneak back in to the West Indies lineup for this series if Jason Holder continues to be injured. So let's see if Dommy gets his chance. But that's a good question. Who's the one who picked on it? Who's our winner? Who's our champion quizzy? And it's Rajat Bhargav, the Rajat _RB. Well done, Rajat. Join the quizzing family We like to have many, many newer faces and names coming in with the answers. Well, that's been game number one. We've got two more games to go on Friday and Sunday to wrap up this West Indies tour of India. Plenty more cricket to come after that before even we get close to the IPL. Ajay Jadeja, thank you for your time,
It's always a
as well
pleasure.
as Dinesh Karthik. Lovely to have our panel on board on Cricbuzz Live. We should, of course, be back again to look ahead to game number two, see what excitement lies ahead from the Eden Gardens in Kolkata. For now, from Cricbuzz Live, it's good night.